Hello, everybody, and thank you for coming to this session. Today, we're going to be talking about best practices and our advice as technical adoption managers to upgrade from version 7 of vSphere to version 8. My name is Ariel Sanchez. I'm a senior staff technical adoption manager, and I'm proud to introduce Christina.
I'm Christina Griffus. I am a staff technical adoption manager with VMware as well. And this is going to be the most important link that you guys want to keep.
Yeah.
Take a picture of it. We'll put it back up at the end, I think.
Exactly.
But this is going to give you the keys to all resources for upgrading. So definitely grab that.
So we're going to grab this link and go to it right now. Control-C. And then how do I get to a browser?
Not set up for that.
But we should have internet access. No?
Oh, hell.
La 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 la. Well, let's try it. Let's see what happens. Oh, that's not it. I have to go do copyright.
Technical difficulties. Typical. Why won't
I do see internet there. Let me try it. Can you tell I don't use Mac that much?
Looks like it's working.
All right. The day is saved. Thank you. All right, so this is a document that we have been working on for more than 1 year. It started as version 6 to version 7 upgrade. We have updated to version 8. It is a big document. The first sections go over the vSphere 8 and the 8 Update 1 announcements. And we don't really have the time for that, but all of those links are in there. And we also included a lot of information, like a little double click on the vSphere 8 and 8 Update 1 new features. But what we want to focus on for this vBrownBag talk is the upgrade tips.
Yeah.
So one thing we want to start with is we work as technical adoption managers. That is a paid service. And we do things for our customers like helping them with all their technology needs, making sure they get to where they want to go. We produce webinars, but those webinars are public. So we put those YouTube links out there so everybody can see them. So we go over vSphere 8, what's new with vSAN, ESA, and lifecycle management. All right, we're going to get started into the upgrade part of it.
Okay, so first thing to keep in mind, important dates. Probably should say important date because there's one date to remember, right? April 2nd, 2025. That's end of general support for vSphere 7. So I know it sounds like it's a ways away, but it's going to creep up real quick.
Yep.
So, and if you guys are not familiar with end of general support, we have a link in here that goes all through general support, technical guidance, things like that. So definitely check that out.
Yep.
And then the next section here, we have general documentation on the upgrade processes and recommendations. Oops, sorry. And recommendations. And the most important thing to remember here, read the release notes of the version you are upgrading to. Here we have links to update 1, but we all know that there's been newer releases. There's been A, B, C at this point, so just make sure you're going through those prior to any planning or anything.
Yeah, and you'll probably see 8 Update 2 come along at some point. We will update this document when that comes around, so you can come back, bookmark it. This is on GitHub. It's a public platform. You can just send us a message there. You can send us, hey, add this. We'll accept it.
Yeah, this is a working document.
Living document.
Forever, really.
So the next part in upgrade planning, we want to start talking about how can you minimize unknown risk. Anytime you make a plan, something that you didn't expect might go wrong. So our strategy here is trying to minimize impact for whenever something does go wrong that you are not expecting. So the first thing we're talking about here is making sure that you have your backups. There's vCenter backups. You can back up the ESXi config, something that people forget, distributed virtual switches. You can also back up those. So make sure you have those and you test those.
And we do have links in here for all that information as well. So next thing to think about is what environments are you going to target first? Are you going to test on? obviously never do production first, right? So if you have a nice test environment where you can tear down, rebuild, test things out, that's optimal, right? And then start with your dev environments as you're ready to start implementing things. So production last, always.
You want to start thinking of how you're testing your things, right? So if your dev environment has the same backup as your production, that's a great place to start because you're testing also the backups, right? So you want to start with your least risk and then progress until you have production. There is a part where you do an upgrade of the distributed virtual switch, and we have a KB that says that for a little amount of time, you may have a network blip. This is one of the simplest upgrades. You click it and in 1 second it's done, but we actually have a KB that says, please schedule this after hours.
One thing to also remember, use our TAM services. If you have a TAM, also reach out to GSS, oh my gosh. Reach out to GSS, open a proactive ticket, and not the day of or the day before, but 5 to 10 business days ahead of time with your plan to upgrade, because they'll be able to review your plan, make sure everything looks okay, you know, iron things out, answer any questions that you have. That's a really good way to prepare for your upgrade. Yeah,
and they'll have time to actually set up a Zoom with you, check on some things. And if you do run into a problem, the ticket's already there. And they already know the environment, somebody's already assigned to it, so it will be a much faster, in that tense time, a much faster resolution. Let's talk some hardware considerations. Obviously, when you upgrade, you also have to upgrade drivers, firmware, and you want to find about those things first. We have a resource out there called the compatibility guide. You have to spend some time here to actually say, okay, what are my server hardware models? Do they support the version that I'm going to, number one? And one other thing that we put in here is we want you to document every component that you have, which versions they are, whether it's software like vCenter or ESXi, but also if you're, in this case, it's Cisco UCS, but if you have Dell hardware, there's a lot of tools out there, RV tools, the B documentation, SBIL report, that will give you your drivers and firmware. You don't need to do this manually. You can run Power CLI reports so that you actually know what you're running, and you can check it against the recipe that your vendor is providing you, whether it's Dell, HP, anybody else, that they're advising you to be at for drivers and firmware.
It's also important to familiarize yourself with the vSphere Lifecycle Manager. It is a replacement for VUM, the Update Manager. VUM works still with vSphere 8, but this will be the last version that it'll work with. So if you are not familiar with vSphere Lifecycle Manager, it's probably time to get familiar with it. We have some links in here on how to go from using baselines to images, and this is something that you're definitely going to want to dive into. We have links for both vSphere 7 and vSphere 8, depending on which direction you want to go.
And this is something that you definitely want to use your test environments for.
Yeah. Absolutely.
All right, we'll talk a little bit about licensing. You don't want to be doing your licensing after the upgrade. Take a good look. You know, you probably have to go into your portal and actually upgrade your licenses. Document what your old license was, where it was used. Document where you're going to use your new licensing. Some customers are using vSphere Plus or are using some other type of subscription license. Those have their own little things. Just be aware of what your situation is and make sure that you don't overlook this section. Next, with every release of vSphere, we put out a security hardening guide. Technical Marketing for Security does a great job. They release documents, especially like an Excel sheet that tells you, okay, if you want to harden your environment, these are the settings, and this is how you can check on them. It changes per version. Sometimes it actually gets easier, but when we introduce new features, there may be new settings. So it's part of your due diligence to check. Not only what settings you may need to adjust, but also test them out in your test environments, put a VM in there, make sure everything is running correctly.
Then, of course, you want to follow recommended order for all your component upgrades. We have like a nice little chart here that kind of shows the order, but this is also where you need to check your versioning that you're at currently as well, because you need to there's a lot of things to do before you do your vCenter server, your ESXi host. So, for example, if we take a look here a little bit below, I think we have an example of NSX.
Yep.
Yeah, vCenter integration dependencies.
Yep.
So NSX specifically, you have to be on 4.0.1 to upgrade to 8U1. A lot of customers are still on NSX 3.x. at this point. So this is a huge consideration to think about, and NSX upgrades, take some time. So that's going to require its own planning.
So we basically want you to build out the table. Here's the products that I have talking to vCenter, right? You want to know what version they are. If it's a supported version right now, when you upgrade, will that version still work, right? When you upgrade to 8 Update 1, is that version of NSX or your backup software or whatever else talks to vCenter, will that still work? And again, this is a KB specifically for version 8. If you have these products, you have to upgrade it in this order. So make sure you take a look at that too.
And then we threw in a nice little table. This came from a KB article as well. There is a note here for VMware tools, but this is minimum VMware product versions that are supported in vSphere 8. VMware tools, we're recommending 12.05 just for security risks, things like that. But 10.3 is supported in vSphere 8, so just keep that in mind.
And I'll mention something else. If this happens a lot, people still have Windows Server 2008, Windows Server 2012. Yeah. Those are in what's called legacy support, meaning we don't release new versions for that. So I think that for some of them, the last VMware tools was, 10.3, for example. You have to keep those OSs with that version. There's no, we don't support upgrading VMware tools on those legacy OSs. We don't test those. So you want to make sure that you have a project that actually gets you to a more modern OS if you want to get all the latest features. But yeah, so specifically for 8 Update 1, we already put the table here that tells you which versions you want to be using.
Then we have this really cool tool. So it's the vSphere diagnostic tool. It's actually a VMware Fling. This is something you can go out to our Flings website, right? I think it's flings.vmware.com.
Yep.
And grab it. This is compatible for vSphere 8. This is like a nice health check in a way for your environment to make sure it's ready to be upgraded, right? So it's going to check on any issues you have in your environment, certificates, any problems. You can also include the output of this in the GSS ticket that you'll open to show them, like, this is what we have and this is the results. Do we have to worry about anything? So very cool tool. Definitely run this before you do any upgrades, really.
Yeah, it's a little Python script. GSS uses it by itself. If you don't provide it, they'll probably want to run it. It checks certificates, it checks replication. It's a good health check anyways, but you want to make sure that your environment is healthy before you attempt an upgrade. All right, so we're almost to the last section, which is the actual execution. When you are actually going, you did all this planning, you did all this work. Now you get to a point where you're like, okay, I'm going to do this, Friday night. And we want you to have a preparation checklist. Things that you want to make sure that you do through your upgrade. So in here, what we have is make sure you finish all your documentation of your upgrade plan. Gather any temporary IP addresses you might need if you're doing the vCenter upgrade, for example. The needed software, the hardware ISOs, etc. Test your ESXi host credentials, right? Your SSH credentials. And set a longer maintenance window than you actually need. It's always good to return time, but it's not good to, it's 10 a.m., people are in production, I'm still here trying to get the upgrade. And again, have the proactive GSS ticket.
Then we kind of just put together a list of the upgrade order, right? Backup, upgrade your vCenter, upgrade the plugins, ESXi hosts. I mean, this is all pretty standard for your upgrades, but we've got it outlined here. We use an example here with Cisco hardware, but obviously fill in the blanks for your whatever hardware you're running. And then I think we also have a note here with the distributed virtual switches for upgrade. Every time we release a new version of a distributed virtual switch, there may be some new functionality. We've linked here to what the functionalities are for the latest version, right, the version 8. And we also have a little table here that shows you what's compatible with what. So
yeah, and I'll be very clear. It's very difficult to go ahead and upgrade all your vCenter and host and then immediately upgrade every VMware tools. And it's not common. Normally that happens separately when you're doing either patching or if you have some kind of schedule. That's normal. We just want you to be aware. Especially, I want you to test that out. Test out that new template, test out the latest VMware tools. Make sure things work. You don't want to find out weeks later that you have some kind of issue in compatibility and that you have to roll out because of some reason that we don't know yet, right? So again, minimize risk. Make sure you test things out. I think we're almost done, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so post-upgrade considerations. Again, check your users, check your monitoring, check your backups that they're working fine. You don't want to find out about this 2 days later. You want to make sure that you do this as soon as possible after upgrading. One thing that I have run into with my customers is snapshots on the vCenter that people leave too long. Remember, snapshots are not something you leave for days. It's something that you leave for a little time. You test things out. If everything looks good, you clean out that snapshot. Snapshots do have a performance penalty. You don't want to find out that you need to consolidate the snapshot noon because people are having problems. So make sure that after you've done your test, one of your last tasks is to consolidate the snapshots and have the environment be as pristine and normal as possible.
And then to wrap it up, day 2 operations, we've got a great link for vSphere 8 performance, so optimizing your environment once you've made it to the upgrade and through the upgrade, and enjoy vCenter 8U1.
Yep, and we're going to bring back the link so that you can see that. Let me see, play from start right here. And sorry, there we go.
There we go.
So, we went over the link, but really the idea is that you take this link back, play with it, read it, and if you find something that's missing, please let us know.
Yeah.
This is for everybody.
As more releases come out, like we said, U2 is probably going to come shortly, who knows, but we'll make sure we keep updating this and send us any feedback if we missed something, which we could have, right? Let us know, we'll add it in, and hopefully this will be a good resource for everybody to take away and use for their future.
I think we may have a little time for questions, if anybody has a question.
No questions.
No questions, we're done. All right, thank you so much.
Thanks, guys.